All these patients complaining they can't get their medicines. Insurers and PBMs are often owned by the same giant company, so middlemen, like me, decide what medicines you can get and how much you pay. But don't worry, if your prescription gets denied, we know another one that works for us. I mean, you.
Washington should stop PBMs and insurers from driving up drug costs. Learn more at phrma.org/insurer costs. Paid for by Pharma.
You're listening to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast.
Hello and welcome to the 1865 match report. I'm joined by George Edwards, who's just left the Estádio Municipal in Braga after watching a disastrous Nottingham Forest performance, losing 1-0 to Braga in the Europa League. A result that basically means automatic qualification is out of our reach, meaning we're going to have an extra 2 games in February to squeeze in. So let's start with something positive. I didn't know anything about Braga Stadium until this week, where I happened upon a YouTube video about it, and it looked absolutely amazing in that video. Is it as impressive in real life?
It's very weird. There was no sort of signage or direction, so you just sort of followed the tide and hoped that you got there. The stewards are very unaware of where you go. And honestly, so you walk down and then you do not see the stadium at all until you walk through the turnstiles. Like, because it's so far down and below everything, the car park is like above the stadium. You walk into the back of the stadium, and you said it off camera, and one of my mates said it, and it's like Huddersfield. If you've ever been to Huddersfield away, you sort of approach the stadium from downwards, but literally you don't see the stadium until you get into it. It's very odd. And somebody said, I think it's a very good analogy, that it's just Newcastle with trees, because you are so far away from the pitch. You're at the side of the pitch, and it's quite nice and picturesque, but obviously with the horrible weather we've had here, it didn't really look idyllic. I mean, the city hasn't looked idyllic at all. There's like churches and it looks quite lovely, but it's just been absolutely torrential rain, so everybody's been hiding in McDonald's and in all the pubs and stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely a very different place to watch football. I put on my story that it was like watching football in a ditch, which I think is quite relevant, because you're thinking, why have they put a stadium in a place where it just looks like it should be a mountain? So yeah, that was a very niche thing, but a positive, I suppose, to take from the fact, and it's another stadium ticked off. So yeah, that's a win, if we can take one.
Yeah, the closest thing to a win we got tonight. Certainly.
Well, no, if you ask the players and Dyche, we're under control, weren't we?
Yeah, we'll get to that. So we'll start with the team news, because I think that probably had quite a big bearing on how things turned out. We had 7 changes from the team that performed pretty well against Arsenal. We had a big issue because Igor Jesus did not travel to Portugal because he picked up a knock at the weekend. And because we let Callum Wendo go, because Taiwo's not in the European League and our rumoured Italian striker hasn't arrived yet, that meant we started with Dan and Doy up front. It was supposedly a 4-2-3-1, but kind of a 4-2-4 and kind of nothing at all. We had Sells in goal, Nicola Savona, Milenkovic, Morato and Ola Aina across the back. Douglas Luiz and the return of Ryan Yates in the middle, and then McAtee, Gibbs White and Dylan Bakwa sort of nominally behind Ndoye, but as I say, they basically ended up, none of them really knew where they were playing, I don't think. So It was a bit freeform at times. A number of those players were also the ones that Dyche had said didn't perform against Wrexham. So how did you feel when you saw the lineup?
I mean, it didn't surprise me, because we're all expecting changes for a game like this, but particularly in hindsight, how many chances are we going to give these lads? We're at the FA Cup, and you look at our fixture list, and we do play very sparsely over the next few weeks. How many chances are they going to get? Because they just keep performing the same old crap once again. And it's hard to go on individual players, because you look at McAtee and Bakwa, who a lot of the crowd were on because they keep performing and keep being given these chances and keep failing to perform. But you also look at the decision making. How have we got to a point where we're in January in the transfer window and we're having to play Dan and Doy up front? Even if we had to play Tyler up front, I mean, that's a joke, and Tyler should never be our starting number 9 in any circumstance unless everybody's injured or suspended. But we've allowed Callum Wendo, who in our last 2 Europa League games has scored 2 goals in 2 starts and was starting to have a bit of confidence and looking like himself a bit more. We've sent him out on loan the first chance we've got in the window, which should then signify you'd think somebody coming in. Oh no, it's only today.
Yeah.
10 days later that we're starting to see somebody come in and we've had to put Dan and Doy up front. I mean, it's just an absolute joke. So whoever's made that decision, and that looks like Deitch, to be honest, because I know a lot of people have said, oh, it's Edu's decision, but it was Edu's signing and it was the club signing. So I find it hard to believe that they would have given up on their player so quickly, particularly after he's just started scoring goals. So that looks like a Deitch decision to me. And I'm at my end of my tether with Deitch, to be honest, as I am with a lot of things at the club at the minute. But how they've allowed that to happen is just a joke. And Dan and Doy starting up front in the Europa League is ridiculous. So I think that was what we expected. You know, I was surprised Aina started. I thought it'd be Williams instead. But there's not much between them. And Marilla had a knock. So it's not a game or a circumstance to take serious risk. But I just wondered how many times are you going to give McAtee and Bakwa a chance? And I think we were proven right as the game progressed.
Well, there's a couple of things that sprung to mind there. One, I was thinking about 20 minutes into the game, I was like, actually, this is exactly the game you should give Taiwo, because this lot have nothing about them whatsoever, and you could just imagine him barging his way through and scoring off his arse, and that giving him the confidence he needs to, and getting a little bit of fitness back, because it should have been a nothing game. And yeah, so Taiwo would have been perfect for it. I don't.
By the way, how bad are they if we're saying Tyler would have been perfect?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, don't even mention the fact that Callum Wendo's already got 1 goal and 1 assist in like 45 minutes of being on the pitch.
Oh, has he scored now?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And then, and then the other thing is like, technically, it's kind of a must-win. If we want to do something in this Europa League, it's a must-win game. So I know we have to rest these players, but start with the first team and then take them off at half-time.
And why are we not prioritising the Europa League? You know, this season, and the Europa League has been such an escape, particularly for the lucky supporters that are able to come on these European trips. You know, I've been to every one now, very luckily, and I know that's such a privileged position to be in. But these Europa League games, particularly where have been an escape from Ange, from Deitch, from Nuno, from Marinakis being angry, from Edu. You've just sort of lost all of that for a couple of days and fell back in love with your football club. But where's that gone now? Because of the Europa League, it's just not there anymore. And it's just so frustrating that we've seemed to spurn this opportunity, because we're 17th in the Premier League. You'd hope now we're going to stay up. That West Ham win's huge. You surely got to put everything into the Europa League basket now and try and salvage something. And particularly, as I mentioned, we're not playing that much at the minute. We've got a lot of rest between games now. I know now we've got Thursday, Sunday for 2 weeks, but then we don't play for 2 weeks. Why not start Sangare, Anderson, start as strong as you can, maybe put McAtee in there with the first team lads, and then be 2-0 up at half-time, take them off, rather than be chasing, rather than going at half-time at 1-0, rather than, you know, be chasing completely the whole time. I just really failed to see the game plan. And I know it's easy to say it in hindsight, and if we'd have scraped to 1, they wouldn't be saying it. But I just think they've got to they had to prioritise this, because now they've been moaning in 2 months' time that they've got 2 extra games that they could have avoided by prioritising this competition and getting over the line.
Absolutely, and yeah, ultimately, we're not safe in the Premier League, but we're as close as we can be at the moment. So yeah, let's go for this one.
If we'd have lost that West Ham game, I think you'd understand them going, right, hang on a minute, we're 1 point ahead of safety. We need to really dig in and save ourselves. But now we're 5 points ahead or something, and with the run of games you've got to balance it and maybe prioritise both. But it just seems like we're completely saying, we've got the quality to beat Braga. Well,
and that's the other thing. Actually, it's like they're in the top 8. I think they're 5th now. Yeah, because of this win. If that's the quality that we're up against, we should go for it.
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, Grandad said it before the game that we've not played a good side yet. But you look at the table, and all the teams we've played by Utrecht and Malmo are up there in the top. Yeah. So you're thinking, if that's the benchmark, and we're still what we're now 13th,
Yeah.
then that's unacceptable that we've played that standard of team, yet we've won 2 games or 3 games. It's just baffling how we've allowed. I'm just so upset and disappointed how this was the most exciting season we've had in so long. It had so much potential, and we've just let it slip. And when are we going to get a chance to be an exciting Premier League team with money to spend, with a connection between the fan base like we had, and with Europe at the cusp of our hands, and let it slip? We're not going to get the chance. We waited 30 years just to be in Europe, and we've let it go so bad, and it's just so frustrating. But it's Forest, and it's not a surprise, is it?
So, so if we go to the game itself, I mean...
Do we have to?
I mean, we started off reasonably well. Morgan did a little bit of a sort of dribbly thing straight through, ran straight into their defender, whose name was Niakate. He shoved him over because it was the only way he could stop him, and we got a free kick just outside the box. And Morgan took it. I mean, Douglas Luiz was stood over it as well, but Morgan took it. It was a decent effort, but it was also easily saved. But, I mean, as far as we were concerned, that was the highlight for the entire first half. But it wasn't... They weren't good, but there was a point about half an hour in where suddenly this guy, Horta, who apparently is like their longest standing player, their hero sort of thing, he suddenly just put in a cross and it beat our entire team, and we were just lucky that they didn't have anyone on the end of their cross. And it was like, actually, we could be in danger here. Yeah. And then about 10 minutes after that, one of I think it was their winger, managed to get the wrong side of Savona. Savona had a tough game today. He looked, earlier in the season, he looked like a decent player, but he looks ruined now. And he was just pulled all over the place, and this guy got the wrong side of him, and he should have really scored, but he just put it wide.
Yeah, Savona didn't have a clue where he was. Savona, I think he had his worst game I've ever seen him have, to be honest. He was just absolutely nowhere.
You're listening to 1865.
He was no threat going forward. He wasn't helped by the 2 clueless wingers ahead of him in McAtee and Bakwa, who completely failed to offer him any sort of support going forward. And he's not the best going forward, so he does need that driving influence, which those 2 just weren't. But yeah, defensively, he was poor. And he got a bit of consistency, didn't he? Because I know it was him and Williams for every game, pretty much. In the Europa League, we rotated Williams, but Savona played 90 minutes most games, and he's now been out of the squad for, 3 weeks, and you could just tell. He just looked like a rabbit in the headlights. Milenkovic was sort of having to deal with Morato, so couldn't really cover him because Morato's a liability as well. And yeah, he had no positioning awareness for that, and I was shocked. And the thing is, the lads, as we'll mention in the press conference, said that apparently Forest dominated the game. Well, apart from the penalty, Braga had the 2 best chances in the game. So it comes down to chances and what you do in the box, and Forest just didn't do enough at all. We got forward, as you mentioned, in a few stages, and I mean, I was actually quite flummoxed why Gibbs White took that free kick, and I know there was a lot of happy clappers going, oh, it's a good save by the goalkeeper, but why is Douglas Luiz not taking that? He's a seasoned set-piece taker. As much as he's underwhelmed in a Forest shirt, that type of situation is what he's there for. Why is he not the one taking that free kick? If he takes that could be a goal rather than just a corner that we do. Or didn't even go for a corner in the end, did it? It sort of petered in the corner, and then we failed to do anything with it. So yeah, it's just sort of a minimal, threatless performance. I think they were very well organised, and you saw how they just tried not to have the ball. They tried to give us the ball and sit in that back 5, and they were so comfortable in that, and then they managed to break in their moments, and they did that far better than we did. There were times where they had the ball, but they just didn't try and do anything special. They made sure they had men behind the goal in case they lost the ball, and we got the ball and had no real sort of attacking plan. And that's been a common theme over the past few weeks. Even at Arsenal, a lot of positivity from the Arsenal game, but we still offered nothing going forward. And I can't remember the last time we looked a threat going forward. Maybe Man City in a few stages, but City still weren't bothered about us. It's probably Tottenham that we actually looked free-flowing and a consistent threat and attacking-wise, and that's, 6 weeks ago? So, yeah, it's just a common theme recurring itself. And yeah, defensively, we were just a liability as well.
The 1865 Match Report.
The new year brings new health goals and wealth goals. Protecting your identity is an important step. Your info is in endless places that could expose you to identity theft, leading to lost funds. LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Resolve to make identity health and wealth part of your New Year's goals with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
You're listening to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast.
So in the second half, started off with Savona getting caught out again. But then came the pivotal minute, or well, it probably ended up being 5 minutes in total. But it's McAtee, I think, who tangles with their defender while he's running on. It goes to VAR. I was watching on the TV, and yeah, there was definite contact. Their legs all got tangled in together. So I wasn't surprised that it was given, but it was quite a lengthy VAR check. So Morgan steps up for the penalty. He does his little stampy thing, and then tamely hits it, not even to the far post. It's like a foot short of the post. So it's a relatively comfortable save for the keeper who'd gone the right way. And then to really, really rub salt in the wounds, I was going to say something else then, they go right up the other end, and not a single person, not that none of the defenders, but not even their attackers can claim any credit at this. It was just like a farce of a goal where the ball just pings about with no one having any control of it whatsoever until it eventually bounces off Ryan Yates, who chases it slowly into his own net and then runs into the side netting. It's one of the most farcical goals I've seen in a long time.
It's just fucking pathetic. Sorry, it's it's just pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. That is. I mean, firstly, I was shocked the penalty was given, to be fair. I thought it was quite soft, and I thought it's one of them where once he's given, they won't overturn it. But if he didn't give that, I don't think VAR would have overturned it. I've not seen it back. I've not seen anything back from the game, but that was my initial thought. And I just had no confidence in Morgan taking a penalty. I don't think you ever really do, to be honest. You know, I mean, it all started with Morgan and penalties with him sending us to Wembley in a Sheffield United shirt, didn't it? So he sort of gave us a preview of what's to come. And yeah, you know, he scored the odd crucial penalty, and I like that he steps up as the captain, but he's got to stop doing it now. He's now cost us, I think, 5 points in the Europa League that will be enough to put us into the round of automatically without having the playoffs, because if he scores that penalty at Graz, there's 100% we win that game. 1-0, that's 2 extra points. And tonight, if we go 1-0 up at Braga, I think there's not a chance that they come back to it. And it was a gift, actually, because Forest, they didn't start the second half very well. That was the first real attack they had. And I said, this is a let-off, but we weren't let off. And then we completely switched off. And I actually said, regardless of whether this penalty goes in or not, Braga will come and score here, because I thought if the keeper saves it, they'll be riled up and they'll come at us and we won't have the stomach to take it. Or it goes to 1-0 and they wake up and we slump again and it goes to 1-1. I thought either way they're going to score. I didn't see it coming as quickly as it was. It's just an absolute farce. They break with such ease, and they played it to the left, they had space. Broke it over to the right, they had so much space. Ball goes into the box, and what the fuck's Yates doing? Sorry, what the hell is Yates doing? I mean,
it's not even that. We had 7 players back.
So many covering defenders.
All of them couldn't. The ball bounced off all of them. It's like it was just absolutely awful.
We looked like we looked out of our depth defensively, didn't we? And the thing is, what I'm struggling to see, and I know a lot of people are still trying to fight Dyche's corner, but the cornerstones of his side aren't there. We don't have defensive composure. We don't have any sort of solidity at the back. That ball goes into the box and it's anonymous. And I know they broke with some sort of threat, but it was very blasé. It was slow paced. They get to the edge of the box. We seemingly deal with it. A ball goes in that's harmless, that's going straight to whoever's behind Yates, and he just lashes at it and flashes at it and puts it into his own net. And I know he's not played since the Everton game. He's still getting up to the speed of things, but he's a professional footballer. He's been playing first-team football for 6 or 7 years now. We should know better than that. And then he goes on TNT and starts laughing about it. And that, for me, just sums up what the issue is at the minute. The fact that a lot of the players are accepting that performance and, thinking that all of them Forest fans we've paid money to be here. I'm sat in a hotel, an Airbnb that I've paid for. I paid for the flight, so a lot of fans have done a lot more than I have and have been here since Monday, and that's what they serve up, and that's what they think's acceptable. I just find it baffling, to be honest, and but unsurprising, and that's the most disheartening thing, that nothing we saw yet today was a surprise.
No, and it was actually predictable coming on off the back of Arsenal, where we actually looked all right, not good, but all right. That's just the way we are, isn't it? It's like you have one good performance and then follow it with three shit ones.
It's another start in it. We've had it so often, and that's why I didn't get so excited after Arsenal, because, solid performance, really good platform, but I just sensed that it would, again, be a start and not turn into something. We had to build on that, and we had to come to Braga and then Brentford and put two good performances in and take... You'd want 6 points, but take 4 points at least. We had an uninspiring first half. We did what we always do in the second half and conceded an early goal. And then after that, we conceded the goal. There's no fight back at all. You know, you'd think you go 1-0 down, you're away at Europe. You're trying to avoid them 2 extra games. You're trying to give them visiting fans who have been chanting all game about the fact we're going to Istanbul, singing Deitch's name, trying to give them something to shout about. And Deitch reacted with the subs about 10 minutes later. They made 2 subs before we did, which is unacceptable. There should have been substitutions at half-time. There should have been substitutions as soon as we went behind. No, we waited till about, I don't know when it was it 65 minutes until he put the changes on?
Yeah,
70 minutes. Well, I mean, that's just a joke. 10 minutes after we go behind. Yeah. How can he not see that what's happening is not working? And... You know, there was no fight back at all. We came forward in spells. We created the odd chance, but
we hit the roof of the net a couple of times. But and Aina hit the bar, I think.
Yeah. But, I mean, Aina's chance is the best. We're resorting to 30-yard pop shots, and that's what a lot of people sort of stared at me because I shouted, "Is that what we're resorting to? 30-yard pop shots that might go in?" And it'd have been a scrum if it went in, but you can't be resorting to that away at Braga at all.
And the thing is, before Aina's won. One of their subs, Pal Victor, hit the post as well, and that was a much better chance than Aina's one was.
And well worked. That was a very well worked goal that Forest should be able to create, but I could not see any of them lads creating that.
No. So Deitch eventually did make the subs. Anderson, Williams and Callum Hudson-Odoi coming on for Luis Olaina and James McAtee. I was surprised it was McAtee coming off because I thought he was marginally better than Dylan Bakwa. But
there wasn't much in it though, was there?
And then Dominguez replaced Bakwa a few minutes after that. We get a few more shots off. None of them were on target, I don't think. Sangare replaces Yates, and then just to make the evening perfect, Elliot Anderson gets a straight red card. I've watched it back now, and he waves his arm at the referee after another foul away that Anderson wasn't involved in. He waves his arm at the referee and says something to him. Referee just goes straight to his pocket, immediately pulls out the red card, and Elliot Anderson looked absolutely shocked, and then Sangare got a yellow card straight after as well for saying something. So kind of just puts the perfect icing on the cake, doesn't it?
I know, yeah. I mean, starting with the subs, why did they come so late is my question. But I was thinking, if we've got 10 subs to come on here, because it would take 10 subs, probably bringing the Man City squad over or the Liverpool squad over to try and change something, because I really couldn't see what was going to happen there. And, I mean, it's hard to have scapegoats, like I said, but McAtee and Bakwa, as your 2 wingers, were just completely threatless. You know, there was a time in the second half where Aina, as left back, he ran 20 yards from the halfway line to the edge of the box, and Bakwa just sort of shepherded him there. He didn't try and make a run. He didn't look for the ball. He just shepherded him, followed him, and I was looking up and thinking, what am I going to do? And then with this whole Ndoye up front thing, and I mean, you know, he was trying to make runs, but he's not a natural number 9. And at this level, you've got to have some experience up top, particularly against 3 centre-backs. You've got to have some sort of nous to get ahead of your man. And I'm very critical of him. I don't really like him, to be honest, but he's not a striker. So, yeah. I mean, I don't think he's a winger personally, but he certainly isn't a striker. So you can't expect him to be a threat. But anytime he then came wide and actually did well to link up with the wingers, they looked up and thought, we actually cannot cross it because nobody is there. You know, whoever the opposite winger is was still stood with the fullback. Douglas Luiz and whoever the other midfield player was at that point, were just stood in midfield. You're like, what can we actually do here? Bringing on, I actually was surprised Sangare didn't come on earlier, because Sangare was stood on the touchline, basically managing the team for 5 minutes. It was warming up, but he was chatting to all the lads, trying to encourage them. And he's one of my favourite players at the minute, because he just brings so much presence and calmness and control. And even from the sidelines, he's trying to impact the play far more than some of the lads on the pitch were. So, yeah, the subs just baffled me, and I think with sort of Ange, he sort of failed to influence the game in the fact that he just sort of stood there with his hand in his pockets and pondered. And I was actually, after the game, I went to the pub with my friends and we were talking, and we said we've had, away in Europe, we've had one good game that was Betis under Ange. And I honestly despised Ange, but I'm at a point to think, was it actually that bad? And I wonder if he hadn't have came in and been so arrogant and so like he was doing us a favour, if he'd have came in like Dyche and tried to embrace us Forest fans, I think we'd have given him more time, and I think maybe we'd have been playing a bit better than this. And I'm not saying Ange was the answer, because I really despise that period of football, but this can't be the answer. And then that whole, I mean, in the stadium, nobody really knew what happened with that whole red card situation. It was probably quite clear that Anderson said something, but we didn't really know. It looked like Ndoye elbowed somebody. Suddenly the game stopped and he's sent off. So it was obvious something was said, but it just compounded everything. And Dyche and them tried to sort of rally round and give us a round of applause at the end. But I think, I heard the Yates comments after the game, which I'm sure we'll get to, but it surprised me hearing that, because how vocal the supporters were at the end at how dissatisfied they were. I thought the captain of our football club would take that more seriously and try and front up to it and try and apologise, rather than standing there with a mic in his face saying that was acceptable and that we controlled the game and that on another day we might have won. I'm sorry, that's tone deaf.
The 1865 Match Report.
Every day at Sierra, you'll find top brand apparel, footwear, and gear for 20 to 60% less than department and specialty store prices. And during clearance time at Sierra, those incredible prices are 40 divided by 2.5, carry the 1, even lower. And when you shop clearance at Sierra, you can save a whole lot more on everything you need to get active and outside. That's a lot of saving. Epic brands, vast selection, teeny tiny prices. That's Sierra. Visit your local Sierra store today or shop online at Sierra.com.
You're listening to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast.
So, the pitch was awful, and that probably had a bearing in the tempo of the game. But this is a Sean Dyche side. You'd expect him, right, if we can't play it short, let's go long. We didn't do that. The wingers, McAtee and Bakwa, as you said, they didn't really offer very much. The few times they looked like they were avoiding the ball at times, but I mean, I can kind of understand it. In a way, they've had their confidence shot to pieces by. None of the managers have ever shown any confidence in them whatsoever in wanting them to play.
But McAtee particularly has had enough chances at this point, hasn't he? You know what I mean?
But
and he didn't get. He quite easily got hooked at half time today, but he didn't. Dyche stuck with him to 70 minutes, and he still did nothing.
Absolutely, but it's that vicious circle. Once it's not going right, you can't. But
look at Hutchinson. Look at Hutchinson. He was not given a chance by all three managers. He came. He had a few 10-minute cameos. The one game he started was Swansea away, and the first half he was really promising there, and then he got no chance after that. And then he came on in that Leeds game and made an impact, and then he's now our best winger by far. He's our best winger. So that's that. As much as things are again going against them and they've got a shot of confidence, but Hutchinson was given far less chances than Bakwa and McAtee in the same period of time, yet he stood up, he's made himself counted, and he's now got himself untouchable in our Premier League side. And once we're able to change our Europa League squad, I know they put Aina in as sort of fullback enforcement, but I'm sure Hutchinson will be in there for the later stage of the competition. That's who they've got to take an eye off, and McAtee and Bakwa just aren't doing that at the minute.
But as I mentioned, I think Savona had a terrible game.
Yeah.
After looking very, very promising earlier this season, I thought in many ways Morgan was our best player, but he also had a terrible game. I think I said in our group chat, I think Dan Ndoye was our best player, but that's because he was doing something that he's patently not suited to do. And he was at least giving it a go, whereas it felt like a lot of the other players weren't giving it a go at all.
Yeah. I mean, I said Sells was our best player because what could he have done about the goal when Yates passes it into his own net? And apart from that, he cleared it when he had to, and he didn't really put a foot wrong because all the 11 outfield players, the manager, the coaching staff and the subs, bar Sangare, really showed nothing in that performance. And yeah, I know I've said it again, but it's just not a surprise. It's very hard to get frustrated or to even say something new about it because they just keep serving up the same performance that we've seen, I'd say, since Everton. It's just been the exact same, and it's just very demoralising that we've let this chance slip because this should have been a memorable season. This should have been the season where we kicked on with Nuno and we kept fighting. You know, we were never going to finish seventh again with the Europa League, with the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup and the strains on our squad, losing Anthony Elanga, Chris Wood out injured. We're never going to replicate what we did last season. We understand that. But to be this polar opposite to what we saw last season is just, it's not acceptable, and somebody's got to take accountability for it at the top of the club. And it doesn't, as much as I'm not in Dyche's corner, and I really don't want him to be here now, and I really cannot stand it if he's here next season, but somebody above him's got to take accountability for tearing the season apart by ruining our relationship with Nuno and then leaving us with this group of players that really is not fit for purpose.
Yeah. So I was reading an interview with Jota Silva this morning.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, it made me very, very sad, but because he was talking about how much all the players enjoyed being together and all that stuff. But then they were saying, yeah, sort of midway through August, we knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
And that's really worrying.
And Jota Silva, to be fair, I really loved his attitude. He was probably one of the worst football players, technically, that I've ever seen to put on a Forest shirt. You know, really, he had not much about him technically. But I would rather him start than a lot of players have got at the minute because of his heart and his desire to make himself known, to jump for every ball. He was like 5'6", yet he won a header against Van Dijk. He would never stop running, and he would just give everything to be involved, and he just wanted to be on that football pitch. And we need an ounce of that in our current squad because there was none of that today. And I would have rather have had 11 Jota Silvas than what we served up yesterday, and that proves exactly what's wrong with it.
Absolutely. So, well, that's that. We'll be back with a match report after Brentford, which is always a fun away day.
Oh, does anyone want a Brentford ticket? Please message me. You can have it.
And then we've got Robbie Keane's Ferencváros next Thursday, but which is at home. I can see the atmosphere being very good for that one as well, especially as they've got Callum O'Dowda, who, if you remember, he's probably scored against us every single time he's played. So,
no, yeah, well, we had that with Wrexham, didn't we? But Keith Moore was injured, and they still scored 3.
So, and we'll have a Yates Delusional Espresso bar in between as well. So in the meantime, I'd like to thank George for travelling all the way there and standing in the rain. I'd like to thank you, the listener, for being here. And until next time, come on you Reds, if you can bring yourself to say it.
Yates Delusional Espresso bar, that's fantastic.
You've been listening to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and leave us a review. It helps other listeners find our content.